Hey guys, this is the last day of me being absent, so hopefully y'all been doing okay and doing what's expected of you, and everything's going well with solving by factoring and solving with the calculator by graphing. So now we're going to solve by quadratics by using square root method. Now remember, we've already covered graphing and factoring, but the problem is these don't always work. We're going to do square root today, and it may work, but it doesn't always work. We'll do quadratic formula next class. It always works, so we'll talk about that next time. So let's talk about how to solve for square root. What you're going to do is solve for whatever is being squared. So it might be a good idea to circle what's being squared or highlight it being squared so you know how to solve for it. Then you take the square root of both sides and you're going to use a plus or minus, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then you simplify and solve. Now you may have to reduce a radical here. That's the big thing that stands out to me. So first, I know I need to solve for what's being squared. Well, x is the only thing being squared. So that's what I'm going to solve for. So that's why I subtracted 1 from both sides. And then I divided by 2. Solving for this x squared. And then I get x squared equals 8, and it's solved for. Now I need to square root both sides. And this is where you use that plus or minus, because think about it. A negative times a negative equals a positive, and a positive times a positive equals a positive. So we want to account for both situations. So you're always going to put this plus or minus. Be forewarned, if you do not put plus or minus, you're only giving me the positive solution. That means you've only given me one answer out of 2, and you will receive half credit. Okay, so now I want to do plus or minus the square root of 8. Now we know from simplifying radicals that we're looking for the biggest factor, meaning the biggest thing that multiplies to 8 that's a perfect square, and that's 4. So this is going to be taken out of the radical. Square, that's an arrow, you can barely tell. Square root of 4 is 2, so I have 2. Square root to 2 because this 2 stays inside. Okay, so this is my final answer. I want y'all to give this one a shot. It's almost exactly like the last one, so y'all do this one. Pause. Okay. So first, remember, I think it might help you to highlight what's being squared. So now, here we go. Plus 32. And I'll get 2x squared equals 32. But this isn't solved for yet. There's still a 2 next to it, so I need to divide. And I'll get x squared equals 16. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. There's a square root box. I guess I should do that in a different color. Square root of 16 is 4, but I need to do my plus and minus. So there's my final answer. Okay, now let's look at one with a fraction. How do I get rid of a fraction? By multiplying by whatever this denominator is, which in this case is 3. Now, if I highlight what's being squared, that's all of this x plus 5 because it's in parentheses. So that's what we're solving for now. The only thing that's happening to what's being squared is it's being multiplied by 1/3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of this fraction. Multiplying by 3 cancels this out, and I'll be left with just 1. Remember, do not multiply inside the parentheses. Over here, 7 times 3, because I got to do what I do to one side, I have to do the other. 7 times 3 is 21. Now, my next step is to square root both sides. Okay. So I get x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 21. To solve for x now, I need to subtract 5 from both sides, and I'll get x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 21. And that's my final answer. So y'all try this next one, which is almost exactly like that first one. Or not the first one, but it's like this one up here. First thing I'm going to do is highlight what's being squared. You could also circle it or underline it if you don't have a highlighter. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Now I'm just making 2 over 1 a fraction here. There's an understood 1 underneath it. I'm just doing that so y'all see that this crosses out. (14 times 2) 28. Now I need to square root both sides. So I'll get x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 28. But this needs to be simplified. What perfect square goes into 28? Let's think about it. 1 times 28 equals 28. 2 times 14 equals 28. And 4 times 7 equals 28. And 4 is a perfect square. So that's what I'm going to divide this into. X minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 4 times 7. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite it. It's plus or minus 2 square roots of 7. Add 4. Yeah, don't forget that plus or minus, remember. 4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 7. And I'm done. Now let's look at one with an imaginary number. That's whenever I'm taking the square root of a negative number. So my first step here is to see that my x squared is what I'm solving for. So I divide both sides by 2. Negative 48 divided by 2 is negative 24. So now I have x squared equals negative 24. So I'm going to square root both sides. So x equals the square root plus or minus the square root of negative 24. I want to separate out my negative 1, and it's going to come out of the square root as an I. Oops, sorry. That's not y'all's bell. That's from when I'm recording the video. Don't try to leave. And this 4 is going to come out as a 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. The 6 stays inside. And that's my answer. Y'all do this one now. It's almost exactly like this one. Okay, so I want to solve for the x squared. I'm going to divide by 3. And I'll get x squared equals negative 12. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And I'll get x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 12. Now I want to simplify the square root of 12, or negative 12. First I'm going to separate out my negative 1. And I did 4 and 3 because 4 is a perfect square. When you're taking stuff out of the radical, it goes before the plus or minus, if y'all are having trouble with that. Negative 1, the square root of negative 1, that's I. The square root of 4 is 2. And the 3 stays inside because it's not a perfect square. So x equals plus or minus 2i square roots of 3. Is that it? That's it. No, this is it right here. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's do this one now. What do I need to do before I do my fraction? Think about it. I'm going to add 2. Now I need to get rid of my fraction. So how do I do that? Multiply both sides by 3. These cross out. I'm left with x plus 1, quantity squared, equals 36. Now what do? Is my square root solved for? Yes, it is. Or what's being squared, because this is all it's being squared. So now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. I'll get x plus 1 equals plus or minus, and this will actually work out, so we love that, 6. Subtract 1, and I'll get x equals negative 1 plus or minus 6. But look, I can do this. This isn't a radical right here. I can do negative 1 plus 6 and negative 1 minus 6. So I've got two situations, negative 1 plus 6 and negative 1 minus 6 for the plus and minus. So one solution is 5. One solution is negative 7. Y'all try this one now on your own. Oh yeah, here's the Post-it. Sorry. Okay, so now I want to add 8. Now 2 onto x minus 3, quantity squared equals 24. Now I want to divide by 2. All right, x minus 3, quantity squared equals 12. Now I want to take the square root. So I'll get x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. I need to simplify the square root of 12. Separates into 4 and 3. This 4 is going to come out. The square root of 4 is 2. And now I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I'll have x equals 3 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3. Yay. Alright, one more example. Y'all give this one a shot by yourselves. Christmas is coming. Okay, first I'm going to multiply both sides by 4 to get rid of the fraction. Remember, you multiply whatever's on the bottom to get rid of the fraction. So I'll have x plus 1, quantity squared equals negative 80. Then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. I'll get x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 80. Then I need to simplify negative 80. I don't know why I wrote that so big, but whatever. Anyway, square root of negative 1, of course, is I. Square root of 16 is 4. And I can't take an even square root of I, so it's going to stay inside. Minus 1. Okay, don't let these i's scare you. It's just if you have a negative number, make what's inside positive and put an I outside. That's how you deal with it. Okay, so don't let the i's scare you. Okay, so y'all now start your homework and be good. Okay? I will see you soon. I miss you guys. Bunches. Email me if you need me. Bye.